Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Emily. It is the 2nd of July, so naturally it is time to do a mid-year reading wrap-up or check-in, I guess you could call it. And instead of doing a usual mid-year book tag, I actually did a video last year where I talked about the top 10 books that I read, and that's exactly what we're doing today. I have read a total of 73 books so far this year, and I feel like I've had so many incredible reads this year. I've had a few 6-star reads, I've had quite a few 5-star reads, and so I feel like doing this video is the best way to get my favorite books across. So with all of that being said, let's just get straight into it. Also, this is going to be in absolutely no particular order. I'm just going to tell you my ratings if they are 5 stars or 6-star reads for me, because all of these books are either one or the other, but I'm not doing it in any particular order or ranking. Starting off, we have Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, which is actually one of the first books that I read this year. I feel like I do not rate thrillers 5 stars very often, but this was a new release, and honestly, I think this book was incredible. It was so well written and everything just came together perfectly. There is honestly nothing I hate more than when a thriller leaves you with so many plot holes at the end and you just have so many questions that are unanswered, but I feel like this is one of those thrillers that really did not do that, and it was just such an incredible read. I remember it also got me out of a reading slump at the time. This is following a man called Grady who is an author, and a year prior to this book his wife went missing and he's been struggling with grief. He also is in a massive writing block, and so he decides to move to this island because he thinks it'll help him with his writing again and get over the grief and everything with his wife. But when he goes to this island, he ends up realizing that he is stuck there, he can't leave, and he also sees a woman that looks like his wife that went missing. I feel like there was so many twists and turns. Like, if you need a thriller to get you out of a slump, this would be the perfect recommendation. I honestly love anything that Alice Feeney writes. I feel like every single book I've read from her I have absolutely loved, so she's such a good place to start, even if you want to get into thrillers. So this was a great book. I gave this one 5 stars. The next book I have is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now, this one had so many mixed reviews when it first came out, and so me giving this 5 stars was very weird because I feel like most people hated this book, but I absolutely loved this, and I feel like I connected to the characters in this book like I do with the rest of her books as well. I actually did get an early copy of this on my Kindle, and then I ended up buying this Barnes & Noble edition that has this big quote in the front, which is really, really cute. Wish it was signed, but I'm still very happy that I have this edition. Obviously, it's something I'm going to cherish for a long time. So this book is following Samantha, and at the start of the book, she goes to this vet for her kitten, and this vet is this really, really grumpy guy called Xavier. They just do not start off on the right foot at all. As I said, he's very, very grumpy towards her. I think he tells her that her kitten needs to be put down, and then she goes in again a few days later, and I think he ends up asking her on a date. I can't exactly remember. I feel like I read a lot of romances this year, so I don't remember the details, but I just remember how much I loved this book and loved the chemistry between the two characters. Yes, there were some elements of this book that were really weird, like the whole vet thing at the start. There was some really weird things that happened there, but I did really love this overall. I think that Abby Jimenez is such an incredible writer, and this book did not disappoint me, so it has made my top 10. Next up, we have The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This was also a 5-star read. I read this one quite recently actually, and I did read it pretty much in one sitting. I sat there one day and just binged this whole entire book because it was such a beautiful story. It is following a teacher's aide, and I've said this so many times, but that is a job that I did for 3 years, and although I'm not doing it anymore, I feel like I connected to the story in that way. But anyway, it is following a teacher's aide called Lucy, and she works with this young boy who is going through the foster care system. He had a really, really horrible family, and although she wants to adopt him, she can't because she doesn't really have her own life in check, and so she is struggling through that. Obviously, the boy wants her to adopt him as well, and it isn't until this famous children's book writer comes out with this little challenge in this world that they live in, and the challenge is invite only. He invites, I think it was 4 people to this island that he lives on, and the winner gets an unreleased copy of a new book in this series that he's written, and they can do anything with it. And so Lucy's like, okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity because this could be my way out of my life, right? And it also could mean that I can adopt this little boy, and that's exactly what she does. She ends up going into this challenge, and it's full of riddles. It's very, very magical. I just think that the way this story ended was so beautiful, and I didn't expect it, but I love the way it ended, so I would highly, highly recommend this. Then I read Silver Elite by Danny Francis. I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. I did not expect to give this 5 stars, let alone it end up being in my top 10 books of the year so far, so this one's very surprising to me. I'm going to try to explain this one the best I can because I feel like it's a little bit confusing. It's kind of a mix between dystopian and fantasy. The world is very dystopian, but then there's fantasy elements like powers in this book. We are following a girl called Ren who lives with her uncle, and at the start of the book all of this crazy stuff happens. We don't really know much about her or her uncle's identities. All we know is that Ren has these really strong powers and abilities that she has to hide from the rest of the world because the people in this world are scared of the powers that she has, and so if they are found out, they will be killed. And anyway, fast track, all of this crazy stuff happens, and then she ends up getting recruited to be a commander in the silver block, but she has to go through all of this training first. There's people that do make it to the silver block and there's people that don't make it, and then there's also a higher level above that called the silver elites. There is also a very strong romance, like enemies to lovers sort of element to this, and I feel like it's a true enemies to lovers, which I loved. It was also a massive slow burn. I feel like they really did not get together until like the very end of the book, but I ate it up once they did, and I just feel like this whole ending had me absolutely shook. Like, yes, there was parts of it that I did guess very early on, but I feel like the main plot twist towards the end of this book I did not see coming at all, and so I feel like it really impressed me for that reason. So if you have been scared to read this, I promise just give it a go. It is so easy to get into and read. It's not complicated at all. I feel like this would be a good place to start if you want to get into reading dystopian / fantasy books as well, because it's like not crazy long. It's about 500 pages, which obviously is a bit longer, but I feel like it's needed for the amount of information that's in this book. But as I said, it's still not complicated. It's very easy and entertaining to read, so highly recommend. Then my last 5-star read before I go into the 6-star reads is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Obviously this is a new release in the Hunger Games series. I do not have a physical copy of this yet because I'm waiting for it to come out in these hardback editions that I already have, and I don't want to really buy a paperback when I don't have the paperbacks. So I don't have a copy of this yet, but this was an instant 5-star read. I think that this is like one of my favorites in the series. I feel like my ranking of the Hunger Games series would be Catching Fire, so the second book, Sunrise on the Reaping, the first Hunger Games book, Mockingjay, and then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I didn't really like that one, to be honest, but I just loved this book so much. There were so many things that I didn't know about Haymitch's story. Like, I know there's kind of always been that information online, but I never knew any of it. So I feel like going into this with no expectations or no like prior knowledge of what happened in his life and his relationship and everything, it really just hit me on a deeper level, and I think this is one of the more emotional Hunger Games books for sure. Like so many other people, I am so incredibly excited for the movie adaptation for this because I feel like the casting is literally perfect. Like, you cannot fault anything about the cast. Like, don't even try, because I think it is perfect and they are going to do the movie justice. Like, I can already tell, and I'm so excited for November next year when it comes out. Obviously I can't talk about this book too much because it is part of the series and I don't want to spoil anything, but literally incredible. I loved it so much. I think it was perfectly written. Now onto the books that I have given 6 stars. I feel like I've had more 6 stars than 5 stars almost this year, which is kind of crazy. 6 stars are just like that step above a 5-star read. Like, they are just perfection. It's just like a completely different feeling to a 5-star read for me. A 5-star read is like a book that's perfect. Like, I wouldn't change anything about it, but then these ones are like my Roman Empire books. So the first one that I gave 6 stars this year was Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider, which I believe has now officially come out in like a trade paperback in Australia, which is really cool. I feel like everyone needs to read this. This is a fantasy book, and honestly, this one's very hard to explain. I feel like trying to explain the synopsis of this book, I've never been able to, even back when I read it. This one is following a girl called Bryn, and at the start of the book she goes to this market and something happens at the market and she ends up getting caught doing something she shouldn't be doing. And then there is a guard that is after her, whose name is Akka. Now she thinks that she gets away for a few days until he ends up coming back and ends up taking her. I think I literally read this book in under 24 hours. Like, I really binged this. I loved it so much, and obviously, as I said, it was a 6-star read for me. I feel like this is one of those books where like no one can guess the ending that's coming. Like, I did not guess it whatsoever. I'm so excited for the second book because I feel like the way it ended in a way that's perfect to make this into such an incredible series, and I know that Rachel Schneider is going to do that. So even though I explained that very badly, I hope that you give this book a go. Like, if you've seen it, you're into fantasies, definitely try it out. I believe it's still on Kindle Unlimited as well. I'm even trying to get Harry to read it. I've been trying to get him to read it for probably the last 6 months since I finished it, and look, he's only 80 pages in, but I'll get him to finish it eventually one day. The next book I gave 6 stars was The Favourites by Lane Fargo. I actually finished this and I gave it 5 stars, at the beginning, and then I could not stop thinking about this book and these characters and everything that happened in this. So I was like, no, that is like a 6-star read. That is the definition of a 6-star read. So I did bump up my rating. This one is following 2 ice dancers. So it's actually figure skating, but I didn't know this. Figure skating used to be called ice dancing, and that's why it's called ice dancing in this book. If that may be a little bit confusing, I didn't know either. But it is following 2 young people and their journey from being kids and growing up together until being Olympic skaters. I think Katarina and Heath, the 2 main characters in this book, are some of the most like complicated characters that I've ever read. They have so many flaws and so many things that they are going through in this book, and I feel like that's what made it very, very entertaining. They went through some awful things at many points in this book, and like they were like romantic for a while and then they weren't romantic, and it was honestly just crazy the ups and downs that their relationship had in this book. And I feel like it was due to all the pressure that they put on themselves to become Olympic skaters, and that's what we're seeing throughout the book. Obviously they also go to train at this very like prestigious school, so there's like all of these people that are very, very rich and they've just come from completely different upbringings to them, and so they really don't fit in with them that well either. I just think this was such a beautiful story. Like I feel like the vibe of this book is literally like Taylor Jenkins Reid sort of writing. I've seen people compare this to Daisy Jones and the Six, which did scare me because I hated that book, but I do see the comparison with Lane Fargo's writing being similar to Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's just like that very beautiful writing where you feel so attached to the characters, and that's how I felt in this book. I just feel like this book was literally perfect. Like I definitely want to reread this at some point because I did listen to this mainly as an audiobook, and I feel like if I was to physically read it, I would somehow love it even more. The next book I have is actually from an indie author, and I have spoken about this book so many times now. It is called Before We Were by Monique Medved. This is such a beautiful story, and I feel like me explaining this book is not going to give it justice, but it is a romance book. Think like the Boys of Tormund series relationship wise. Like this isn't a sports romance, but I feel like the actual characters and relationship reminds me of them, mixed between The Summer I Turned Pretty because it's set in like a summer town in this book. It is following Nate and Nora, and I just feel like the friends to lovers trope is probably my favorite romance trope ever, to be honest. It is following their stories over many summers in this book, from when they are younger until they become teenagers, and all of the ups and downs that they go through as well. This is just one of those books where I feel like nothing like really crazy happens, but you're just following the characters in their day-to-day lives, and I feel like that is one of my favorite types of books because you really just feel so connected to the characters. Honestly, like if I was to recommend like any of these books out of this top 10, like this would be one of my highest recommendations. I feel like everyone needs to give this a go because she just truly has such incredible writing, and she actually posted that book 2 is going to come out at some point this year, which I'm so excited about. I also have 2 copies of this because she did send me an early copy which has this like not for resale thing on it, but this is the copy that I annotated, so I wanted to show you guys how many annotations I put into this because I feel like that is one thing that convinces me to read a book when I see someone's annotations. And then I also went to her like book launch event a couple of weeks after it was released, and I bought a second copy because I loved this book so much. Okay, we have 2 books to go. The next one is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. This is another one that I annotated this year, and honestly I went into this one with no expectations. I was very nervous for this because I'd been seeing so many people rant and rave about this book when it came out, and I think I read it a couple of months after release. This is one that I feel like you have to go into with no expectations because I feel like I did not have any idea what this story was going to be about, and I feel like I really loved it for that reason. We are following our main character Georgia, who is quite a flawed character, but she also has gone through so much with her family. They just really do not love her, and I know that sounds very harsh, but that is the harsh reality of this book. They literally straight out tell her that she's not like welcome in this family with them, but because at the start of this book their father passes away, she does have to go back to stay with her family and do all the funeral arrangements and everything like that, so there is a heavy grief topic in this book as well. But I just feel like seeing her go through all of these awful things, like it was so awful to read. I feel so bad for her character. It is just one of those books that has a very heavy family dynamic in it, in not the best way, to be honest. And then there is also like a subplot of a romance in this. I'd say that it's like a bigger plot, but I feel like they don't really get together until towards the end of the book. Loved the relationship in this as well. I loved Sam. I think he is the sweetest character ever. I'm so excited to see if this becomes a series because honestly I have no idea, but I want more of these two characters, especially with the way that this book ended. Again, I feel like this is just one of those books where you're following the characters in their day-to-day lives and nothing really crazy happens. But I would also recommend to read the Magnolia Park series first. You don't have to, but there is a mention of a few characters from that series, so I feel like it would make your experience even better if you were to read that first. The last book, which was my most recent 6-star read, was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one I was so apprehensive about because I was like, a book about space, a book about NASA, I am not going to like that at all. But boy, was I wrong. Like, this really pleasantly surprised me because I did not go into this expecting it would be a 6-star read. Even reading the first few chapters, I was like, okay, like I'm enjoying the writing. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing and the way she tells a story so much, but I didn't even think it was going to be 5 stars even at the beginning. So it very much surprised me that I ended up giving this one 6 stars. This one is following our main character Joan, who is becoming a NASA astronaut. She's going through all of the training, and I feel like I'm a broken record at this point because I've talked about it in so many videos in a row that I've filmed, but at this time females are very looked down upon in NASA. I don't think there has been any females that have become astronauts, so they go through all of that as well. There is a very strong like found family element to this book, which I loved. I feel like because they had to go through all of this really harsh training together, they just became so close, like all the main characters in this book, and I loved seeing that. But I also feel like it made the book more devastating. This is like 2 different timelines that we're following. So we're following the start of their training, and then we're following, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, where there is like this space mission that is happening and everything is just going wrong. But we only get that chapter a few times throughout the book, so you don't find out what happens until the very, very end. It is also a romance at the same time between Joan and Vanessa. I said this in my reading wrap up as well for the month, but Vanessa is one of my favorite female characters that I've ever read. I think she was such a beautiful character. I truly just wanted the best for her and Joan this whole entire book, and the things that they were going through were so awful, and I just think this whole story was so incredibly beautifully written. Like, I really cannot even put it into words, but I think everyone needs to read this because it was just phenomenal. There is no other word to describe it. But that was the last book out of my top 10 reads of the year. I feel like I've had so many incredible reads, and I'm very excited to see if these books change a lot towards the end of the year. I'm definitely hoping that I get some more 5 to 6 star reads in the second half of the year. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a like and maybe leave a comment because it does really help me out. With all of that being said, thank you again so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.